Go ahead and click start streaming. I'm just gonna wait for it to connect.
Okay.
And I think we are connected. It says it's connecting. Is there any way for you to pull the link up just to verify that?
Yeah, I've got it up right now. I'm just refreshing. There we go.
There it is. Perfect. All right, cool. We're live. All right, I'm gonna go live on Instagram as well. Then we should be good to go. I'll just wait for people to get here. We'll give them like a minute or two, maybe less, and then we can get right into it. But this is really cool. I also like how you it looks like the whole thing is like almost to scale, like exactly like it was in the movie too.
Yeah, I did my best to make it as accurate as I could.
This is awesome. All right, cool. All right, we got some people on YouTube so far, and then people are rolling in on Instagram. Hey guys, welcome to the stream. Today I am streaming with Smouse CG. You guys have probably seen his shader that I shared a while back. It's really, really awesome. I'm really excited to introduce him. All of this will be recorded on YouTube. We're also live on YouTube. The link is in my story, and all the information you're going to need to know, he's going to go ahead and tell you now. All right, Smouse, do you want to tell everybody a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, so I'm a 3D generalist. I've recently started doing more technical art. Just kind of what's been needed and demanded for me from client work. Um, I've been doing 3D art kind of my whole life. I started when I was about 7 or 8 years old, and I've most new people probably don't know this, but I actually use Cinema 4D my whole life. I actually started using Blender 2 years ago now. Um, and I've been loving Blender ever since, and like I don't kind of ever see myself going back to Cinema 4D unless people pay me to. But um, yeah, Blender is kind of my home now, and so and I love it for how when I was using Cinema 4D, I wanted to do more technical stuff, but it's kind of technically limiting. Like you can do fun stuff with it, but Blender's a lot more just freeing and liberating. So I've been sticking with that, and I plan to stick with it, especially with all the new updates coming out. So I'm really loving it.
That's awesome. Yeah, I think everyone's happy to hear that too, because a lot of the people that follow both of us are definitely a big part of the Blender community. So we're really
Mm-hmm.
happy to see when people add new things and they create shaders, and especially when they're at like a very affordable price point too. So I guess we should hop into your demo. Obviously, like I've posted a couple of videos about what you did already and some amazing renders that you can create with this shader. And there seems to be quite a lot of applications about it. So also for those of you who are watching on YouTube, there should be some links down below so you guys can get the shader. And we'll talk more about that later, but you are more than welcome to take it away, Smouse, and show us what this thing can do.
Yeah. So a lot of you have probably already seen kind of my Blade Runner renders. I just finished another one last night, and I was going to use that as a demo because this one was a little bit more kind of a little bit trickier to get the exact look I was trying to go for. So I figured it'd be a good example. And I know like a lot of people have been asking how to do the kind of underwater look. So I haven't really had a chance to explain how the caustics work on a technical level so people kind of understand it better. But how the caustics work is that they are driven by kind of your geometry shadow information. And so it's not actually refracting light like normal caustics would. And when light refracts through objects, like with traditional caustics, that's why it takes a long time to render it. So this one using the shadows, it can do it as quickly as shadows can render. So pretty much real time.
It's genius.
But there's like the caveats with that. It's like you don't get that refractive kind of look. And so kind of had to simulate it a bit with some vector nodes and kind of just fake it as much as you can. But with that, it's like uh, what people are used to is like if you've got still water like a pool and you've just got like small ripples like you can see here, these ripples are not going to generate that like strong of an effect because there's not very much drastic shadow information. So let me make this bigger.
So it's slightly exaggerated, but on purpose so that you can get these like beautiful effects.
Yeah. Yeah. So if we come down under the surface,
Mm,
you are basically just like you've got an exaggerated, like you said, kind of deformation going on, and you're using that exaggeration shadow to kind of give you the caustics that you see. So if we just
it's amazing.
yeah, we drop that there. Actually, show you guys how.
Wow. Huh.
But you still get like if we were to turn this off, you still get some caustics from the like not so you just kind of put that under the surface. You can't see the surface, but the light coming through it is still fine. Is not blocking the light like a glass shader would. So like traditionally, like if you try and shine light through a glass shader, it's going to just diminish the light power very quickly. And this one, it preserves it as much as it can. And so you're able to go through multiple layers of glass or water, and it's going to continue to look good. And another really nice effect of it is that if it's too dark and like you don't want to like crank up your light, so if we wanted to make these brighter, so if we just cranked up the light, you're making the whole thing brighter.
Wow. Oh, is that part of your shader right there?
Ooh,
Oh, there we go.
sorry, you might slow down a bit.
Yeah, yours as well. It might be because you're using so much of your GPU. Yeah, probably is it.
Yeah.
Still working? I think I can hear you.
Let's just troubleshoot this real quick.
Yeah, it's just a little bit shoddy. I think it's probably because you're using so much GPU power, because that shader's an
Yeah.
absolute beast.
Here, let me see if that helps. I had some like the NVIDIA stuff for my camera filter, so hopefully that let me just see. Seems like it might be helping.
Yeah, I think it did. I definitely did help. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. Okay.
I saw you had like a little button that you were pressing on your area light. Was that also part of what you did with your
Oh,
shader?
no. So this is from the photographer add-on.
Oh, okay, cool.
It's like like my workflow doesn't exist without this add-on. It's super cool. So you can just like adjust the lights kind of stop value very quickly. So you can go up like 1 stop, 2 stops, just with a click of a button, or half. And then you can also just adjust the color range to like the light wavelength. So you can adjust the color temperature of it very quickly.
Wow. That
That's
is
super
really
nice. And you
cool.
can, yeah. Um, okay, so now that I don't see any lag on the camera. So generally it's like if like traditionally your caustics only come from the light information. And so like the brightness and the intensity of the caustics comes from how bright your light is. And so a nice little side effect of this is like you can art direct the caustics a lot more. So if we turn this light back down to what it was, let me just see what the other ones were. 8,000, 8,000. Okay. So we've got this little kind of dark band right here comes from the subtle, kind of the still water. And then all these streaks come from the one underneath. And if we want to make the streaks brighter, we can just select that shader specifically. And we can just turn the caustics up even brighter. So if we just double it to 10, only those caustics alone will become a lot more intense.
That is so cool. So you can like completely customize the look and feel.
Yeah,
Amazing. Yeah, look at all
yeah,
those settings. Wow.
yeah. Super easy. And then like because it uses object information or the shadow information, you can kind of isolate. So you can bring the object shadow back, but it'll still apply the caustics. It'll just kind of use the caustics as a mask. So you can even isolate it further and fill in these gaps. So we just darken that. You're just going to get like the really bright highlights.
Okay, that's it. So is it's almost like raising the contrast, similar to that?
It's kind of similar to that, yeah. Yeah, it's just for so like if you have like a glass object like a vase or a cup or something on a table, and if you have the object shadow all the way off, you're just going to see like a bright area underneath of it. So you can bring that shadow back with the slider, and that'll give you kind of just a more realistic shadow again. But this just allows you to kind of art direct it a bit more, because for some cases, like you don't want a shadow, you want it to just be as bright as it can, it's like water.
Is there
Um,
now when you go to render these things, are you using denoiser on this?
some of them I am. Uh,
Like how crisp can you make those like caustic effects there?
so they here. Let me just turn off the denoiser. A lot of the noise comes from the bounce
Okay.
stuff. So, like the caustics themselves, if we get really close to them, they're not very noisy at all.
Wow,
Like
that's
they
beautiful.
resolve and like
Dude, that is
I think
can we get a like not a full screen view of that, but can we get a larger view of that? Because that is
yeah,
just
yeah, yeah.
absolutely gorgeous. That in itself is like a piece of art, even just zooming in on that.
I know.
Wow. It looks so good.
And then here, let me bring the shaders. This one.
Oh my gosh, I'm just imagining the possibilities right now with what you could do with this shader. It's so cool.
But yeah, I'm still trying to figure out like I don't even know what it can all do. Like I just kind of made this stuff possible because I needed it for some stuff, and then other people were like, "Hey, look what I can do," and I was like, "I had no idea I could do that." So,
It's
and I'll
amazing.
show one of them later because it just like blew me away, and I was like, it's kind of the best result. It's for like the thin film.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Um, yeah, it's absolutely crazy. Um, Another cool thing with these caustics, like of the art directability of it, so you've got a prism slider. So if we turn the denoiser back on, just so it's a little cleaner. Um, so the prism is basically, it's kind of in the name where like when light shines through it, you either get just the same color light coming out, or you will get a chromatic split. So it's kind of like a like caustic dispersion of it. So it doesn't use the dispersion, but it kind of generates its own dispersion in the caustics itself. So you can kind of see it with, you've got a little bit of green and red going on here. It's just a very subtle effect right now. If we turn it off, it's just going to be all one color.
Got it. Okay, so it's
And
kind of like splitting the current hue of the light into
Mhm.
like slight variations of that hue.
Yep.
That is really cool. That is so cool. I dig
Yeah,
that.
and a nice kind of benefit of that, so it's like it's not just like doing an RGB split on top of a color, it's using the color and splitting that. So it's like if you've got white light, it's going to split like the whole rainbow spectrum. But if you've got like a mostly blue light, it's just going to be a blue dominant with a little bit of shift in there. So it tries to stay as accurate as it can. But if we crank this up, so right now the caustics themselves are white, the color, the shader is white. And if we turn the prism up, we're going to get kind of more of a spectrum shift.
Wow. Whoa, dude, that is so. And now the light source itself too. Is that still a yellow hue?
Yes. Yeah. So
Okay,
the light itself is yellow. If we were to make the shader itself yellow, then we're going to get more, or like we're going to get less of a color shift. We're
right.
still going to get some of the colors because there's still more white light coming through. But if you make it pretty much fully solid of one color, it generally like you start losing the blues. So if you want to keep that information, then you just want to keep that white and then um, keep your light source a color.
That is absolutely gorgeous. Wow. Close up for these people. Wow. Dude, so if you change the spotlight color to what
Hmm.
it is, it's yellow right now. If you change it to white, would it be like full on rainbow, basically?
Yeah, it should be. Oops. Let me.
Yeah, I can already see the drastic difference even right there. Yeah, okay, I see. Wow. You know, I'm really curious. I know I don't want to interrupt your flow here, but I
Oh, you're fine.
saw, yeah, I'm sure you've seen like caustic effects in real life with like a wine glass or something like that, like on the
Mm-hmm.
table. I have a picture, I'll have to send it to you, and I'm curious how hard it would be to recreate what I saw with your shader because
Mm-hmm.
now that I'm seeing this, it looks just like the effect I saw in real life. It's crazy because even though you're faking it, it looks so believable, and if you really wanted to, you could just look at a real life reference, right, and then try to tone it down to match that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's kind of like all of the kind of Blade Runner inspired shots. I just used a reference to try and match it as best I could. This was the hardest one because in this shot in the movie, it's a very like circular pattern, and so it uses that subtle ripple look. But because it's not refractive, you're not going to be able to get that strong of an effect out of a subtle deformation. So that's where like I had to just fake it
That's amazing.
with this stuff underneath.
And the stuff underneath, is that a displacement modifier?
Yes.
So you
Here,
could technically animate those ripples, right, if you really wanted to?
yeah, they are animated.
Oh, they are. Oh,
Yeah.
I got to go back and watch the video again. I'll watch the video again. That's
Yeah.
my fault.
Yeah. The video, it's a very subtle effect. It's probably the most subtle one. You kind of just have to look at it closely to see him move, but especially with the way the camera moves, and then I slowed it down in post a little bit. It's definitely very subtle, but I just have it attached to an object, like an empty, and then I just animated the empty with a driver. So just like every frame, it moves like 300th of a unit, and then that drives this deformation.
Wow. That is amazing. Yeah, I especially, what my favorite shot is the one where you're kind of like underwater and you're panning back away from the wall, and you
Hmm.
have, oh my gosh, the caustics in that are just incredible. This is incredible. I love it.
Yeah, that's one of my favorites too. I actually might be able to pull that one up.
Yeah, yeah. If you have any like completed renders you want to share with people, a lot of people, I think they always want to see the completed render, which is tough because you have to obviously render out every single frame. But once they see that, they're like, okay, this is going to be worth it putting my time into these renders, and you're going to get an amazing result regardless. Yeah, this is the one.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So this one is a little different because a lot of the look came from the post processing. Actually, oh, I think I edited it after I did that, but it still looks pretty
Dude,
similar.
this is incredible. Yeah, I mean the only difference I can tell so far is maybe like some color correction that you might have done or
Hmm.
something like that.
Yeah, that's the kind of the kind of magical look comes just from color correction, but everything's still pretty like neutrally balanced. Like nothing's blown out. Like none of the colors are too extreme, and then so you're able to just balance those in post pretty easily.
Wow.
And it works very cleanly with volumetrics, so you can get these nice sunbeams, like because they're shadows and actual like refractive caustics. They run very efficiently. It's almost like if you just put like an object in front of a light source and then just casted a shadow into the volumetrics, it's just the opposite. So instead of it being a shadow, it emits light.
Wow, that is so cool. I mean, I got a lot of ideas in my head. Some people are asking in the chat, they're saying, what are we doing here? We're showing off Smouse CG's shader that he's explaining to us and showing us and demonstrating how it works and some of the practical applications. They're asking in the Instagram live chat. I haven't seen anything on YouTube yet for comments, but this is available on the link on YouTube as well as in my bio on Instagram. Yeah, it's weird. I'm not seeing any comments on YouTube unless maybe they're just not coming through. We have 16
Uh,
people watching, so.
I'm seeing some chat on
Oh, are
YouTube.
you? It's like not
Yeah.
coming through on my end. What are you saying?
I'm just seeing some kind of people just saying hi.
Oh, cool. Awesome. Hello, everybody.
Hey, Martin.
Hopefully, did we miss any questions? That's totally my fault for missing that, but
Let me check in.
thank you for looking at that.
Yeah,
Yep,
no questions so far, but
Oh, yeah? What is it?
yeah. No, sorry, no
Oh,
questions.
no question. Oh, okay. Got it. All
Yeah,
right, cool. Awesome.
yeah.
Yeah, with this one, it's interesting because now you got me thinking like maybe you could eventually host a contest and be like, let's see you guys can take the shader and we'll host a contest, see who can create the coolest render with this shader. That could be pretty interesting.
I
Some
I've been thinking about that. I've been thinking about like using the shaders as a prize. I'm trying to figure out like how do I get people to use it and then also win it. Like I don't know. I'm still trying to figure that out, but it'd be really cool because there's people making some really amazing stuff with it.
That's awesome. Yeah, you should repost some of it so I can or send it to me. I'd love to see what people are able to come up with. I'm sure it's insane.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
awesome.
It's yeah.
Let me look at the agenda. Yeah, I think so far we're good. Yeah, you're just showing like different examples, completed
hmm
renders. Oh, can you talk about, would you mind talking about like the comparison to how your shader is better than your like standard dispersion shader that you would find on like Gumroad or maybe like Blender Market?
hmm Yeah. So the dispersion effect. I kind of need some background. So
Mhm.
um, what I mentioned when I started with Cinema 4D, if you wanted like before, like nobody was really doing these kinds of effects before GPU renders came out. Um, so when Octane and Redshift came out, they kind of, especially Octane, because I'm not sure about Redshift, but I know Octane it's called a spectral renderer. So it actually like physically simulates light realistically. So you're able to get kind of certain light phenomenons. So it does caustics procedurally all on its own. It's very, very slow because it's physically accurate. But an effect of the spectral render is you get like physically accurate dispersion and thin film just right out of the gate. And Octane was the render engine that I used in Cinema 4D for a few years. And then after leaving that and going to Blender, Blender is an RGB render, or the Cycles is an RGB renderer. And so you don't get that physical light simulation going on. So you don't get dispersion, you don't get thin film. Um, so I was really missing that because that was a big part of my workflow. And like an old trick that we would do in Octane to get chromatic aberration in the scene without having to do like compositing or post processing stuff, we would just stick a plane in front of the camera and turn up the dispersion, and then it would like physically simulate the chromatic aberration of a lens. But then in cycles, you couldn't really do that. And so I sought out to figure out like what was the best way to get. It's called continuous dispersion. I can show you an example.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's really cool.
Um,
I saw your police car, I believe it was, that you put
yeah,
that was really an interesting example of how that worked. Oh, they want me to show you. This is the amazing creator of the shader right here. This hello.
I'm trying to see if I can switch to my screen. I might have to stop presenting for a second. Window. There we go.
Oh, oh, I like it. We got the side by side. Nice.
Yeah. So generally, like, and there's some tutorials out to do the spectral dispersion. I've added a little bit more functionality to mine just to kind of cater to my shader a bit more. But what people do with the traditional, I call it just dispersion, is they just do a simple RGB split inside the shader. So it still looks good, but if you were to say, like, if you get close to it, you can kind of see where, like, see, like on this side, it starts to break down a bit.
See.
So
Yeah.
you've got this kind of very kind of noticeable split where it looks like multiple shaders that are just offset from each other because they are. Whereas like so you don't get that kind of blurry chromatic aberration going on.
Right,
And then
right.
like with that method, or like with this dispersion method, it simulates that kind of spectral look. And I had actually created this effect a little over a year ago. I've just been sitting on it because I had other work coming up, and then I didn't know where to take it. And then I found some stuff to do the thin film, and I was finally able to kind of tie together the like bringing the features of Octane and that workflow into Blender. And so I was able to like figure out like, oh, like I can finally like turn this into like a solution now instead of just being like a dispersion shader. And so this kind of dispersion effect and the thin film. Oh, so the thin film, dispersion, and caustics are applied to all of the kind of appropriate shaders. So it's the point of Shaders Plus is to like take your normal principled BSDF, your normal glass BSDF, transparent, translucent, refraction stuff, and just add those extra functionalities into the default shader. So it's not rewriting the shader, it's just adding more features onto it. So you can just bring those in, you get whole new tools in your same workflow. So for that, like you can see with this difference, so it's still like down to transmission where like I tried to make it make sense in their ordering. So like underneath where you turn transmission to make it glass, now you've got your glass settings down here, and then past that, and then you've got your normal shader settings again. So between caustics and then thin film, that's where it's like that's where the new features are. Everything else is the same, still functions the same. But you can see here, if we make this a little bit bigger, we can mess with, you can change the strength very easily. And this is a nice effect of like this dispersion versus the split dispersion. This one, you can see how like this is how people usually do it. So they just take shaders and then just offset them a little bit. The downside of this one is you can't change the color. And when I built this last night, I was trying to like make it as comparable to mine as I could, but you can't change color. I've tried like mixing it, I've tried like filters, I've tried everything, and you just can't change these colors because that is what determines the split. So, but you can still change like the index of refraction, and you still get like some cool effects, but you still see like these just very stark kind of offset lines.
Right.
Whereas like with this one, you can change the colors. Like we make this a bit more intense. We just we tint it a little bit. You still get whatever wavelengths are getting kind of canceled out from the dominant color. You're still getting a little bit of bleed from that. So it's like we still got some red going on, but we're losing the red because the green is overpowering it. So when you take it all the way to green, or even if we just go to teal, so we get like it's hard to see the blue. It's like we totally lose the red, but we still got blue and green going on.
That's
And you
amazing.
can't really get that with the other method.
Yeah. No, that's really cool. And wow. I love that you did the side by side comparison because yours is almost more of like a gradient than it is
Mm-hmm.
just that harsh split between the colors. So I totally see why yours is like, wow, that's really
Yeah.
interesting. I'm glad you broke that down because I feel like it makes so much more sense now.
Mm-hmm. And this is a very like exaggerated example. It's like if you turn this down, it's like what was the default? It's hard. Like if you wanted to fine tune the distance between that, like the strength, you just have to go in. Like you could set up a little modifier to mess with the strength in that. But the nice things like it's supposed to mimic real dispersion a lot more realistically. So like when it's more subtle and you look at it from sharp edges, you'll see like this kind of like in this little edge right here, you'll see more of a refracted
Wow.
thing going on in shallow
That's
edges.
that is absolutely gorgeous. I love this shader. Would you mind talking about, and I know this wasn't part of the agenda, but if you don't mind, like the importance of lighting when it comes to your materials and things like that, like how there's kind of is there a side of experimentation to get the result that you're looking for in your renders?
Um, it's not too complicated to set up the lighting. If you're going for caustics, I can just use this example. If you're going for caustics, oh, shadows on. Might be able to get here. We just bring in like E. Where's that one?
See, you got an HDRI on here.
Yeah. Okay, so this is a good example of like the HDRI lightings. Like some people kind of get confused about like their caustics aren't showing up at all. So something to know, because because they're driven by shadows, and this actually works even with traditional caustics and even in real life. But people just think like you can just take like a big light and just shine it on your object and you're going to get really intense, sharp caustics. But like that effect comes from a very small or just like parallel light source. So if your light is spread out at an angle, so like if you have a large spotlight, or if you've got like, here, I can show you a little bit. Makes more sense if I show you.
Sure.
Um,
Thank you for doing this because I know that a
yeah.
lot of people who download your shader, they might think it's just plug and play, which it is, but it's also you
Mhm.
still have to set up your scene to make it work for the shader, right? Oh wow, look at that.
Yeah. Yeah. So you can see like you just bring in a light and you'll get results.
Wow.
But
Is that a point light? What is that?
yes,
Point light.
yes. I'm gonna just make it a little, oops,
Oh,
make it a little bit smoother. So it's pretty. Um, so something that people,
wow. So
so
cool.
so this is a good example of like this kind of shows you that it's using a shadow.
hmm
So you can see it's almost like an X-ray scan of the monkey. Um, this sharpness comes from the size of your light source. So
Okay.
right now, like the default, for some reason, it's set to 0. If I think in earlier versions it was like 0.1. So if you set it just a little bit bigger, it softens it up the further away it is from the source, and so that gives you like a much more realistic effect.
Okay.
Because if you were to like even just we just duplicate this and we get rid of that, you can see like because it's a shadow, it's the same effect with shadows. So if you make it very like a small light source size, it's very sharp shadows.
Wow. Now, quick question on that note. Would you be able
Mhm.
to have two light sources, one that's a very low radius and then one that's like slightly bigger than that so that you can still retain the crispness of those lines?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. So like if we um like you can have as many lights as you want. So if we just like if we just duplicate that and just make it small, and we just make it a little bit darker, just so it doesn't overpower, you still get like a bit of the fuzziness
Oh, that's so
from
cool.
the small light source, and then like you can you just gotta be careful with, like having them in different positions because they'll just kind of fight each other. So this is the soft shadow.
Wow.
So it's very art directable. So even if we just turn it off, you can see what it's doing. Just gives it like a soft glow.
That is amazing. Wow. Now, sorry, I have one more one more question.
You're good. You're
Your parameters that you have for your shader and the
yep.
customizability, can you actually animate those? Like I assume they're all keyframeable just like any
Yeah.
other shader would be. Like have you ever experimented with keyframing those things?
Yeah. So let me see if I can pull this up.
Sorry, it's my
Um,
ADHD mind coming up with
you're
rapid questions here.
you're good. So in this scene, it's a little bit of a crazy viewport, but I'm gonna see if we can just make it more simple here.
Quite the layout you have there.
I know it was like I had it set up and then I had to record it, and there's just here. Let's there we go. So this one,
Oh,
I'm not sure what was different about
I
this.
remember this one. I do remember
Uh,
this one.
I think I saved it after I did some recording.
It's like an abstract piece, right?
Yeah, yeah, I know. Just gotta kick it back out.
Oh,
Um, there's some roughness going on there. Let's kick that off. Turn that off. There we go. So it looks like I turned it off for the recording, but this effect is all driven by one value is keyframed. I can't remember what it was, but everything else was a driver. So when it was like at 0, I had it set to like, if I can actually find that real quick. Let's see.
is that a sphere inside of a cube there?
Yeah, yeah, and I believe I stuck a sphere inside of a cube and I just merged them, so they're just one object. So they deform the same. I don't think I used an empty to drive it. But anyways, whatever's driving it, I just had it set to like when it was at this state, the dispersion was at default 0, and then as it got more intense, it'll crank it up just automatically with the driver. So then it's like as it twists, it gets more extreme.
That's
And
cool.
then you can a cool thing with this, like you can push it past 1. So right now, like you've just got some like really intense dispersion going on, but if you go to like 3,
Whoa.
it'll keep amplifying it. So you can go up to 5, and say even like 15. It's gonna
Goodness.
get really crazy, and like it's because dispersion it's about like energy conservation. And so the higher up you go, the less energy comes back out. So it does get a little bit darker, but it just like it really exaggerates that kind of split effect.
That is
And you
incredible.
can even go the other way. Actually, we turning it to Eevee might help.
Oh, it works with Eevee as well?
Yes. So the dispersion in thin film works with Eevee. Caustics is the only thing that doesn't right now.
Gotcha. And that's never really been supported with Eevee anyway, right? Like even normal caustics?
There's ways you can do it. I'm still trying to figure out like how to implement that, but it doesn't look like the scene's set up for Eevee. Eevee is definitely a little bit different in how you set it up.
Right, a little tricky.
Yeah, there's just some funky things you gotta do with it, but yeah, if you go to like a negative value, so like -3, it'll go in the other direction. So it goes usually from like blue is closest to you and red goes further away. So it'll go the opposite direction, or maybe it's the other way around. I can't really remember.
That is really interesting. That is
And then
cool.
because it's going in the negative value, it actually multiplies the light, so it gets brighter. So
Wow.
if we go to 20, well, except for that when you go just a solid red.
Whoa. This is really
So
this is so cool.
so with that kind of the chromatic aberration camera filter thing, it's like you put a plane in front of the camera. We can actually set that up.
That's you're referencing the same one you used for the police car, right?
Yes.
I just like there's so many ways you can use this. I can't even begin to like.
Yeah.
Whoa.
If you turn the index of refraction to 1, it'll be the same as air. So
Okay.
you're not going to have any distortion going on. So if we bring this to 0, it'll show us. Yeah, we can change the. Oh, hopefully it doesn't take too long.
Whoa.
So this is like now we're just seeing. Let me just turn off that light. So now we're looking to the plane. There's dispersion going on. So if we crank up the dispersion, you're going to get that chromatic
Oh
aberration
my God.
effect going on. And so you like crank it up even more. It like you almost get kind of like a hyperspace kind of look, especially if you go into the negative value.
Oh my God. I can't imagine. Bro, you could probably make some really cool transitions with that, like keyframing that value.
Yeah.
Whoa. That's so cool. Look at that. That is amazing. You could literally just make a little desktop background just with that thin film. Or sorry, not thin. Is this thin film or is this just regular dispersion? Right.
This is just dispersion.
Dispersion. Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
And then actually Eevee might work with this now. Let's see. Yeah, there we go.
Whoa. That's crazy. Now, is it like in terms of like rendering and such, is like if you were in Eevee, would it render faster? Because I know typically Eevee you can achieve pretty quick renders. Would it render faster in Eevee or is it similar to what you would get with Cycles, do you think?
The dispersion?
Yeah, or just like I guess using your shader in general. Like, have you been able to get any really cool renders with Eevee, or is it kind of like it's there just so it works for people who want to use it in Eevee?
It really depends on your scene and kind of what you're using it for. So like the cube with the sphere through it, this shader right now is not built for Eevee's like if you want to have glass in Eevee that you can see through and has reflective properties, you have to do some really kind of hacky stuff to it.
Sure.
So this isn't built for that, but the effect still does work in kind of more simple use cases. You could still build a glass shader using these, but right now it's not built for that effect, just because that's a very specific problem. But this, like, we're in Eevee right now, this effect still works just fine. It runs in real time. If we go to cycles,
Wow.
very quickly, just like
Wow. And
very,
another thing I noticed is when I've used, now before I even met you or discovered your shader, I was using some shader that was very similar that I found on Gumroad. Now it took forever to render. Like what do your render speeds look like? And would you be able to set up like just a test render just to kind of show us how you would go through some of the settings if you have time?
Mhm. Yeah. So are you talking more about like the caustics or something like the dispersion?
I guess either or, whichever's easier for you to demonstrate on the live
Okay.
stream. Just I'm just curious, like what kind of sample counts you're using, like if you're messing around with like the light path settings and things like that.
Yeah. So let's actually
If
go
that's
back.
not too much to ask, of course.
Yeah. No. No. Let's go back to the pool. Is this the? Yeah.
So a lot of the times when I used to do the renders with whatever the other dispersion shader is that I had to like use some crazy sample counts and make like really large images to even get like a decent render.
Yeah. The dispersion, it does in certain cases it does still take a bit of time, just because it's affecting everything on a like a per pixel basis. So every light kind of photon that goes through, it's now having to go through, like, each one will output a random value now. So now you're introducing a lot more kind of spectral noise on the way out. So that does kind of increase the render time a little bit. If you're using the filter, it like barely does much at all. Um, but if you've got a really intense kind of dispersion object and you got a lot of lights going on, a lot of reflections, it can take a little bit longer to render. But that's an effect from like every render engine that has dispersion. Like, if you want dispersion, you're going to increase your render time.
Got it. So
Um,
it's a beautiful thing, but you definitely have to be patient with it. Got it.
yeah, yeah, it still runs pretty fast. Like, if you can set it up to work good with Eevee, like for the filter, runs in basically real time. Um, if you can build a glass shader in Eevee using this stuff, it'll run pretty much in real time. So that's a nice side effect of it, that it works natively with Eevee. But yeah, you do kind of have to finagle your render settings a bit. So with this one though, like what I've found with the caustics, for example, so you can kind of leave your bounces at default for certain things. Like if I've got volumetrics, I will increase the volume to like 1 or 2 just to get a little bit of glow coming off of it. Otherwise, it just looks dark and weird. Everything else, I keep it pretty much at default. If I'm using a lot of glass, I might turn it down a bit, just because you're not going to see like 12 internal reflections going through. So you can turn down to 8 or even 6 sometimes. You can get away with it. And that can have the time it takes to render the transmission object. So it's not going to have your render time, but it's going to have the processing time for glass. So it can help a lot.
Awesome. Awesome. You're using
Um,
denoising too, it looks like.
yeah, and that's mostly, like, you don't generally have to use denoising for the caustics. Oh, another thing too that's important. I actually turn off the built-in caustics
Okay.
because that saves a lot of time. And if we turn on refractive, you'll see it lights up the scene a bit more, because now it's actually like simulating real caustics coming out of those objects. But now there's like a lot more noise. If we turn off the denoiser, there's a lot more noise going
Oh
on
my gosh.
because it's real caustics. And it's really bright, and we don't have any control over that besides turning down the lights. and doing so is going to mess up our direction for what we laid out. So if you turn that off, it's going to make it a little bit darker, but it's going to eliminate a lot of that noise. And then what I found in the viewport, if you just match the final render noise threshold, I found that the viewport cleans up pretty quickly without, like, it's done now with 400 samples. I rendered at 350. It's like it pretty much got rid of all the fireflies. The caustics are pretty clean, minus a few areas, but you turn on the denoiser and they're going to clean up just fine.
Wow. Wow, that's amazing. And that's actually pretty like affordable sample count, if you will, because that's like, I
Mm-hmm.
mean, I had to push 1,000+ samples for, I mean, you know, because I'm sure you've messed around with the other shaders. Like it's hard to achieve something of good quality with low sample counts. So that's, and I consider 300 to be like relatively low enough. So,
Yeah. Let me see. Yeah,
and
let's
you're
open
you're
back up.
rendering at 1080p or at 1920 by 1080?
This one is a 21:9 aspect ratio,
Oh,
so
oh
it's,
wow.
yeah, this is a 1080p equivalent, but everything else was in 1440. I just rendered this at 1080 because I had to get it done last night. Um, and this rendered is 21 seconds per frame.
That's really good, I
Um,
feel like.
it was really good. It's 21 seconds times. I'm just doing the calculator real quick.
It's a nice cinematic aspect ratio you have there.
Mm-hmm.
Like it.
Yes, it only took just under 90 minutes to render
Wow.
this
That's
whole.
you can go to sleep and when you wake up it'll be done.
Yeah, well, like I set this to render. I went and made dinner, ate dinner, and it was done.
That's
It's like
amazing.
the other one, the bunker. That one, it was about. I have it listed on my Instagram. I have all the render specs for that. I think it was in the 30s or 40 seconds, but it was like 500 frames. Um, I think that one might have been 4K
Wow. Now, could you
as well.
potentially achieve a 4K render with lower sample count since you're dealing with like a larger
Yeah,
dimension?
yeah, yeah. So if we were to crank this up, we can try that out. So if we just go to um, the 2160 equivalent. So we go to 2160. And so we could turn down these samples, say like let's try 28.
I think a lot of people, now I realized this just through experimentation, and I don't know if it's taught anywhere, but a lot of people don't usually do this, but you can still achieve some pretty high quality, like large resolution images.
Mm-hmm.
And because you have more pixels to work with, right? Correct me if I'm wrong. When you turn down your sample count, you don't really need as many samples because you have more pixels, right?
Right.
So
Right.
yeah, and it's
Yeah, and
kind of
that's
like a little hack.
I know it's like if you want faster render times, you got to render higher resolution. Um, it's very counterintuitive, but yeah, like with this, like this is without the denoiser, and you can see like
Wow.
this is what you're gonna see. It's like zoomed out. If you zoom in, like you can see there's still some noise going on, but like that'll get cleaned up really nice with the denoiser.
Wow.
Because there's no stark fireflies. Um, this is taking, looks like it's, so this is 4K. For something like this, I would probably do 1440, especially like for social media. But even for 4K, this is going to take a minute and 20 seconds, maybe,
Yeah, it looks
maybe
like, oh
15
my
seconds,
God.
minute 15 seconds, and it's done. That's denoising.
Wow, and that's a pretty darn big image too.
Yeah, the denoiser is taking a bit, but
But I'm sure it'll be worth it when it's done.
yeah, and like rendering, yeah, there you go. So rendering at a high resolution with fewer samples is definitely like something that people don't really utilize much. Um,
Wow. Yeah,
yeah,
I don't
great
know if
clean.
it's just they don't they think that when they raise the dimensions of their project that it will take longer, which
Hmm.
it would with the same sample count, but then you can then lower the sample count. So I've been doing that for a while. I didn't know if anyone else was ever doing that, but I'm glad to know that I'm not the only one that's been trying
Yeah,
that out. Wow, that's
yeah,
crazy.
yeah.
Well, prototype. We should make a little tutorial on just that there.
All right.
I'm writing that
Um,
down.
yeah, oh, I had something for the render settings.
Is it have anything to do with your denoiser? Are you using optics denoising, by the way?
Yeah, in the viewport I'm using optics, but I believe the default render just uses open image. Um, when I was looking up the differences, I got to keep remembering to switch that, but I believe optics is better for animated frames because it keeps it consistent, and open image denoise is more kind of sporadic. So that's like when you get that denoise artifact flickering, that usually comes from open image denoise, whereas optics is supposed to be better at that.
That in itself, what you just mentioned with the flickering, a lot of people have contacted me about that. They're like, "Why is my animation flickering?" Like, especially when people are using glass for some reason, that seems to like
Hmm.
make it happen. And it's funny because sometimes it seems almost unsolvable, but that's definitely a good trick to try out. Is just the actual denoising type itself. That I never really thought about that.
Yeah,
Good to
yeah.
know. Cool.
And then something I've actually found real quick on
Yeah,
that
sure.
note is with the caustics and with the caustics and denoiser, I found that the fewer samples actually works better because for some reason, the higher samples it is, the more artifacts that I've had. So I don't know if you've seen like the vase. It's on, I believe it's on the product page on Gumroad. But the vase spinning, you get like the kind of rainbow caustics coming out of it. I believe I rendered that with 40 samples.
My God,
Uh,
really?
yeah, because if I went any higher than that, then it introduced too much noise, and the artifacts got like really like fibrous looking and very like kind of grainy. And so like the fewer samples actually helped more. It was very weird. Like I've never had like fewer samples give better results in a render before, but it's something about how the denoiser works.
So strange. Huh.
So yeah.
I I Yeah, yeah, you got me thinking because, like I said, I always take pictures when I see the caustics happening in real life. I'm like, there it is, there's the caustics, and it's always a lot harder to recreate it. But I really want to try. I kind of want to try to recreate a few of those images with your shader and see if I could, because a lot of them involve liquid. So I'm curious if you did put your shader, at that correct IOR, um, how close I could get it to these real life situations.
Hmm. So here, let's I can go in and kind of give a kind of technical breakdown of the controls of the shader.
Yeah, that would be amazing.
Let's
So
just
like the different parameters that you can adjust and everything.
yeah.
So
Yes, actually here, let's do the monkey then.
Suzanne is a great demonstrator.
Mm. Yeah, just got all the right shapes.
Yep.
All right, so it's very quick and easy to set it up too. Like there's no crazy like we're just gonna make sure we turn off. Where is it? They kept changing. There we go. And GPU.
You'll have to save that to your default file. No more fake
I know.
caustics.
Okay, so and I haven't showed it off, but this is how you add the shaders.
Okay.
So you have a new material. It's in the add menu. It's like you can't add it from the search until you already add one into your scene. Um, but it's just down here. It's got its own little tab. The shaders plus, you got your base shaders. So it gives you just all the default, like these are all the shaders that have all the features. So like diffuse only has thin film applied to it. Glossy only has thin film. Everything else has caustics and dispersion with it because they're transparent.
Gotcha. Okay.
And Principal Plus is basically all of them combined.
Nice. Okay. So it's interesting. So you actually have this so that when you download your shader, it's like kind of a part of Blender now. You don't have to like
Yeah,
import the shit. That's awesome. I love that.
yeah,
Very
yeah.
good.
Because the whole point of it was to basically just replace the default ones and just give the default ones features that they don't have.
Love it. Love it. Very
So
smart.
yeah. So and then all of so this you've got your defaults, and then each default has their own presets corresponding to the features they have. So like
Oh, I
diffuse doesn't
see.
have a whole lot because like I I don't have the scene available right now, but one of my users, they went through like all the presets and then made an asset library out of it, and then it rendered like all the thumbnails for it. It was awesome, and you just drag and drop it, so you don't have to do like the whole add new shader, add the thing. So I'm working on getting that kind of naming convention worked out, making it look pretty and organized, and then I'll be doing an update for that so people can just like go into the asset browser and just drag and drop presets onto it.
Oh, that's
It's
amazing.
it's so nice.
So cool.
So here we do kind of just do like a run through of all the features right now.
So it'll drop the node group in, and then you just have to plug it right into the material output
Yep.
or
Yep.
input. Yeah.
Yeah. So then, yeah, with the drag and drop presets from the asset browser, you don't have to do that. It's already automatically done. But that's something that will come later. Here, let's add an HDRI. So we got something going on. Something a little bit tame. There we go. So we've got our light. Let's just bring that down. Yeah, so this default light comes with some softness. So Caustics is already enabled right now, but transmission is set to off. So it's people don't have to worry about like stuff running in the background. So when this is off, it disables all of the like the caustics and dispersion settings. So it shuts it off and doesn't even consider it in the shader anymore. But as soon as you turn it on, then it'll start to consider it and it brings it into the scene. Turn off the roughness. And if you bring on metallic, it's going to do the same thing. So it overrides transmission and it'll turn everything off again.
Now, is the purpose of that is so that it's not like too taxing on your computer?
Yeah, yeah, and this is actually like kind of a problem with the dispersion. So when you have, let's say, if we have dispersion intensity off, but we turn dispersion on, it will still calculate dispersion. You can see there's, I don't know if it'll show up on YouTube, but
Oh
there's
yeah.
some kind of chromatic noise going on,
Oh yeah.
but there's no dispersion. So it's still calculating dispersion in the background without actually having it on. So when this is set to 0, it just turns it off and it's super clean now. So, and that's what all the other settings do. It just overrides all of the other features. So it keeps it very efficient. Here, we can turn that off. So with the caustics, so it's not physically accurate. It's not refractive caustics, but it still does its best to react with the index of refraction. So if we adjust the index, it does shift a bit.
Whoa. That's crazy.
So you bring it to 1, you're going to get almost nothing because it's air now.
Yep.
So you're not really going to get anything. It's not perfect. You're going to get some stuff like that, but if you're doing air, you're not going to have caustics. So you start to bring it in and you'll see it come up a bit more. So it really tries its best to, like, there's some chromatic aberration going on, or like the split going on. So if we bring that down, you get more of
Wow.
the caustics look.
Whoa.
So that's all. It interacts with the index of refraction as best it can, and the transmission roughness as well. So so the principled plus one is good because you can affect the roughness of the surface without affecting the caustics if you wanted the extra control. Whereas the glass plus, I can show you real quick. So with the glass one, if you turn up the roughness, it's going to soften the caustics a bit.
Ooh, okay, I see. A little frosted glass.
Yeah. And so you can kind of, it's a little hard to see. I don't know if it'll show up good on YouTube, but you can kind of see the caustics react to that a bit.
Wow.
But
Yep. No, I do
with
see it.
with the principled one, you get control over the surface without affecting the caustics. But you can still, like, if you change the transmission roughness, that will affect the caustics as well.
That's pretty cool. So you can kind of
Yeah.
isolate the look of the object while still retaining the way that it's projecting the light.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. So, and that just gives you just extra control over it, just for quality of life.
Yeah,
Like I'm not trying to like make it, it's like this has to look this way with the setting. It's like you can make it look however you want.
no, I think that's awesome because they're kind of almost their own individual settings, which is actually really cool because you're still
Mhm.
getting the correct like caustics, quote unquote, but you can still like change the look of the object. I think that's really smart that you set it up like that.
Yeah, yeah, and that was just like when I was building them, I was having troubles. Like I still wanted to get certain looks, and then like it was conflicting with all of the other features I added, and I was like, people are gonna hate this. They're gonna want to do stuff, and they're gonna ask me, and I'm gonna be like, I don't want to have to deal with like going to the nodes and disconnect that and blah blah blah. It's just a pain. So it's just like, I made it easy. So if you want it isolated, you can do that. If you want to roughen the glass and the caustics, you can just do that.
That is so
That's
freaking
super
cool.
nice.
This is
And then
literally amazing.
oh, and then there's the other setting. So this really shows you the bare bones effect of how it uses the shadows. So if we turn off the caustics imperfections, actually, we're going to make the light softer. You can see kind of how the effect is built.
Whoa.
And so this almost kind of looks like that the kind of RGB split dispersion I showed,
Right.
but
Right.
with the shadows. So when you turn up the imperfections, it starts introducing this kind of linear, kind of granular noise going on. And
What?
the default settings, so and like you can turn it down, you can get some nice, like it just adds a little extra detail, like how glass, like certain like glass cups and stuff, they have like these little, how they were formed, they have like tension ridges in them. And so when like light would pass through that, they're going to be interacting with that fine detail. So this kind of simulates that fine detail without actually having to have like a normal map or something do that.
That is really smart. And yes, I know exactly the effect you're talking about, especially if you do
Mhm.
look really close at a glass object, you can see those little surface like deformations. Yeah.
Yeah,
Wow.
just kind of just very subtle micro details.
That is really
And so
smart.
if you turn that up all the way, it's like if you get really close to it, you're gonna see the effect, but you can turn up even higher. And what this does is just effectively blurs that dispersion together. So you just get a very nice, like, otherwise it used to look like that. And the solution was you had to crank up the noise,
Yep.
and that would blur them together. But it's like, what if you want sharp caustics with blurry chromatic aberration? Then you just turn that up, and that does it for you.
That's amazing. You clearly thought of everything. That was that's so smart because that those little details are what make the biggest difference when it comes to these types of renders, right?
Hmm.
Wow.
Yeah. And then, so with the caustics, so the caustics work with the dispersion and thin film effects as well. There is a bug that I'll show. It's like, it's not necessarily a bug, it's just a side effect of how they're built and they kind of conflict with each other. But it's like, I haven't really seen a use case where you would need to use both of them together. But dispersion and thin film kind of fight each other a little bit. Um, but the way dispersion works, it will add brightness to your caustics. So that's where like you can balance it with the object shadow a bit. Just kind of fine tune the settings a bit. Here, we can make this just a little softer. But then like you can see here, this is where dispersion is adding a little bit more render time. Just a little bit, but um, and because it's not physically accurate refractive caustics, you're not going to get dispersion like prism effects from the dispersion. That's where the caustics prism setting comes from. So that's what that controls.
Okay, so you could get that like classic like Pink Floyd split where it just completely splits the spectrum out.
Um, I tried doing that, but for like a full like rainbow dispersion, that really does just come from refractive, like physically accurate refraction. Um, it's like if I bring that in real quick, let's
Comments here. So
yeah,
guys, feel free to ask questions if you are watching on Instagram or YouTube though.
so let's just we've got a prism. And if we bring this light, oh, I'm gonna apply the shader first.
That
We'll
might
do
help.
glass. Yeah. So you can get like it because it's simulated. you can get some refraction
Whoa.
going on, but it's not accounting for like the actual refractive property of a prism. So this is like because it's based off shadow and it's fake, it's not going to like split out the other side. Like it's not going to redirect it. So like normally like refractive caustics would like come in the side, bounce off this side internally, and then refract out at a 90-degree angle. That's why they take so long, because now you're having to redirect light through a shader or an object, and that takes so much longer than just a straight line. So this faked effect, it doesn't do that, but you can still, like, if you play with it just right, you can put stuff like inside of it, or you could have like a spotlight going through from out that side, or even like an area light. I think these, so this is, I think, real caustics coming out. No, maybe it is kind of doing it. I don't know what that is, because that's like, oh, you know what? That's from the HDRI. So that's extra light coming from that side up there.
So real quick, rookie question here from me. Do you have to shade your object smooth it for your shader to work, or will it work with
No,
like shaded flat? Okay.
yeah. So if we shade this smooth, it's going to round it out and make it look kind of bubbly.
Yep. Yep.
It'll still work just fine,
Okay.
and it reacts to the normal shading as well.
Awesome. Because
So like if
I
we,
actually found that wasn't always the case with like even with Blender's built-in caustics. It seemed you have to shade something smooth to get it to even work correctly.
mm-hmm. Yeah. So this one, because it's based off shadow and the geometry is normal, it works just fine with either one. And
Wow.
it's like, and if it's rendered flat, you're going to get more sharp, distinct lines coming out of it. So we can go back to smooth, and it's going to be all rounded out and soft. So we got to, like,
I
yeah, there you go.
got an idea for a shader for you real quick. Let me just pitch it to you. It'll
Yeah,
take
yeah.
2 seconds. You can make a stained glass window shader where you can just plug an image in and it splits it up into stained glass. I mean, just an idea. Just an idea.
Mm-hmm. So it was kind of an abandoned test. I was trying, like, these shaders do work as a stained glass thing. Um, I because I was trying to have like light coming through the stained glass into a volume, so you get like the kind of like big cathedral effect.
Sure.
And that worked really good. I just I didn't have time to finish it, and it wasn't looking how I wanted, so I just went on to something else. But that, like, you can absolutely do that with this. So are you talking about like you just plug in an image and then it'll automatically generate a stained glass effect?
That could be one option, or maybe you could even plug your shader to. I don't know if you could plug it into an image, maybe somehow mix it with an image and maybe like a Voronoi texture or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
So just thought.
Yeah, well, like with the next update that I'm going to be doing, where it's got the modular node groups, so it's like it's not going to be like if you've got a crazy complex shader setup and you don't want to replace your main shader where everything's plugged into, and if you've got like a node group and everything's like dependent on the default shader, you'll be able to just take a node group and then just attach it to the color information, just plug it in right at where everything else plugs into, and just slap it in there, or put it after wherever it's going to be. And then you'll be able to apply like the caustics and the dispersion and thin film to any shader. And
That's
you'd
wow.
be able to even like use those effects on the shaders plus themselves too. So like you could use thin film and use that to drive the emission or the roughness or something. That'd be really cool.
That is insane. Yeah, because I'm imagining the applications already. You've shown so many examples, but I'm just like brain's going
Mhm.
crazy thinking about what you could do with this. It's insane.
But yeah. So before like we kind of lose people's attention, um, we should look at the thin film.
Yes.
And I've got a scene from, I don't want to get his name wrong. Um, Martin Swears.
Okay.
His
This
name,
was
his handle on social media is Not Important Studio,
okay.
and he sent me a scene file. Let me switch over.
Oh, he sent you a scene file using your shader?
Yes.
Oh, very cool. All right, cool.
Let me just get that one up. So I don't know, like if you guys know what thin film is, but it's like that kind of oily, like if you see like an oil puddle on a wet road and you see like that kind of rainbow effect going on, or a soap bubble when you have just like all the different colors coming out of it, that's a thin film. And so it's basically like if you have a transparent object, or not even necessarily um, it doesn't have to be transparent, but like a very thin, very, very, very thin layer of a film on top of the surface. It's so thin that like light can still pass through it, but it interferes with that light. And so instead of like going straight through and then bouncing back out, it'll bounce through and then bounce out at another direction. And that's where like it splits. It's basically like dispersion again, but in a very limited range of colors. And what people usually do to simulate that, because it's really hard to simulate it, people usually do like just a rainbow gradient and then just apply that, and you put some noise in it and make it applied to certain areas. But thin film's not a rainbow. Like it doesn't go through the entire spectrum. It goes from like white, or it goes from like nothing and then to white light and then to blue, yellow, red, green, red, green, red, green, red, green, red, green. And then it just infinitely fades into like a gray color. And so there's this guy who uh, made a Python script to generate all the nodes necessary for it. So there's like 1,000 vector math nodes that simulate this. So like there's no RGB colors or anything. It's all just straight vector information. And it generates this thin film effect. And it took a bit kind of Frankensteining to get it to work. I had to modify it a bit. Uh, but
Whoa.
so it's physically accurate film. So it's supposed to locate this you see with like with Octane and Redshift and pretty much any other rendered or like that film. And so let me just make it clean and
So
pretty.
you just said, I'm sorry, did I miss this part? You said it's physically accurate?
Yes.
Wow. That is,
Yeah.
it does look like it too.
Yeah. So the settings themselves, I'm still trying to fine tune to make it physically accurate for the people who like want to input a very specific value, because like the index of refraction and the thin film thickness or like the width is usually like what it's referred to. But it's the thickness, and it's how thick the film is and how much dispersion or like interference will affect that. So, but like with that, because it's physically accurate, so I can show you like we change the index of refraction, it's going to cycle through the different
Wow.
interference range, and
Whoa.
and so you can kind of see where people are like, oh, it's just a rainbow, and we'll just apply rainbow gradient. But you can see like once you get past like the white, blue, yellow, it goes to red, green, red, green, red, green, red, green. It just keeps cycling.
That is just
Or
unbelievable.
if we lower the width of it, we'll get a more kind of shallower effect. And this is really useful for like car paint.
Oh,
Um,
ooh, okay.
and this is actually something when I was in Cinema 4D and Octane, I made a product for car paint. And it was basically like this really in-depth controller that can control any aspect of the car paint. And you just use thin film to get a pearlescent effect. And it's very easy. But with cycles, like you can't really do that. And so this helps kind of just kind of solve that problem. And like you can cycle through and like you've got this whole range of like, because it's physically accurate, you're going to get the realistic kind of pearlescent, opal, iridescent look.
Wow.
So you can just fine tune everything.
That is literally like a shader in itself, like just the
I
thin
know.
film aspect. Wow.
Yeah. But having that built into the default shaders was really important for me, because it's like this is workflow that I'm used to and that I've been missing. So you can still like modify all the other stuff. So like make it more glossy. You
Wow.
can make it metallic. You can make it glassy, except it's a little.
What is this object that you have here? Is this some kind of like
Um,
displacement or something?
this is something that Martin made.
Oh, okay.
He made a really good video. Um, here, I actually I have a link for it. I can post it in the chat.
I like that you like part of the creation for this shader was you trying to find a solution for your own workflow, and it ended up
Hmm.
being like something that you probably didn't originally. Like, correct me if I'm wrong. Did you originally think it would end up being a shader that you would sell, or did you was this only for you originally?
This was only for me, just because like I was really struggling with not having these features, because this is how like I'm used to this workflow, and I'm used to just being able to like, oh, just turn a slider up and then you've got this effect. Um, so
Oh,
that's mostly where my my product solutions come from. It's like it's a problem that I have myself, and then I build it, and then I'm like, well, maybe people will like it, so I show it, and then they're like, oh my god, I need it, so I just turn it into a product, and then yeah, so that's where like in Cinema 4D I made the car paint, and so like that was because there wasn't really an easy like um, a solution for good car paint for Octane. Uh, you would have to like go into the node group, and Octane's nodes at the time were like not very intuitive. You had to use a bunch of things that were not, it was just too complicated for the workflow. I just wanted a quick drag and drop. You have like all these color presets. You drag the presets into the thing, and you've got like beautiful car paint just with a few clicks. And so I made that, and I showed people, and they're like, "Oh my god, you should add this effect, and then add this feature, make it do this." And then I spent like 18 months working on it before I released it. And it's like I've got over 1,000 controls in there. You can add like wireframe, like it uses like the ambient occlusion effects. It like detects the edges of things. It adds like neon effects, so you can make it glow. You can import images into it, just like a drag and drop thing. Is like bunch of procedural stuff. It was the first car paint to have procedural flakes in Octane, like metallic flakes, because everything else was using a normal map to generate the flakes. And then this one was the first one to use. It was using OSL. It's like a shader code, and it uses that to procedurally generate it. So it's infinitely non-repeating, whereas the normal maps you would see a repeating texture. Um, and then eventually they ended up implementing that into the native noise. So not because of me, I'd like to think so, but they ended up doing that, and now that's kind of like the solution everyone does. I'm like, oh, no one really needs my car paint anymore unless they want the presets. But that's kind of the same thing with this. And like I've got another product that I'm going to be making. It's like procedural auroras, because I
okay.
had to do that for a project. I was like, this is really cool, and I feel like a lot of people could use it, and so I'm gonna be messing with that a bit. But that's where this stuff comes from, where it usually starts out as a problem that I have in my workflow, and then I just figure out how to solve that, and then I just ask people like, do you guys want it? And they're like, oh my god, yeah.
Love that. Yeah,
So
that's I mean that's how really awesome ideas happen. Like is
yeah,
solving a problem, which is exactly what you did, and then now you can sell it, and I think that's awesome. It's so cool.
yeah.
Wow, it's beautiful, man. I wow, look at that. The lighting's cool here. What do we got for the lighting? Like some kind of area light setup, it looks like.
Um, I believe so. I don't know how what he did. I didn't inspect it too much.
Hey, that man, that looks so cool.
I know. The video I posted in the chat is like it's so good. Like he's got other scenes that he used this with. Um, it's just it was gorgeous what he came up with.
I'm sure it feels awesome as a creator to see your work being used like by other artists.
Oh yeah, I know. That's like what kind of just keeps me going, because it's like, and that's why I always tell people it's like, hey, like they thank me for it. They ask me questions. I'm like, don't hesitate to share what you're making, because I love seeing it.
Yep.
Because like this stuff is like it's so good.
That's cool. Where real quick, just for people who are watching, where can they find all of your shaders? Is it mainly on Gumroad right now and Blender Market?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Yeah, and the product pages right now are a little, they're still work in progress, especially the Blender market, but I'm working on cleaning them up and making them more presentable. But it's been like, because the shaders are still, they were in development for a while. And so I just needed to get them in a state where I could make cleaner content for it. But
Of course.
yeah.
This is so amazing. I love even like I said, this in itself, you could explore this for hours and just experiment with it. I
Oh
can
yeah.
already tell.
I know that's where like, I keep having to make like new renders and stuff to like keep promoting it, keep sales coming, but then I get distracted. I'm like, because it's so fun. It feels like a playground now. Like being able to like actually like have like good enough caustics and thin film, and like it's just so easy. And then you're stuck messing with all the different settings you can go through, and like just all the different looks. So you can have like car paint that looks like that, or you could do some iridescent stuff. You can have jewelry. You can like people are doing stuff I didn't even think about
Do you
or
think,
was possible.
like, now that you've created this and you're selling this, do you think that this kind of helps put Blender in a spot where more people are willing to try Blender because there's things like this rather than go to Cinema 4D or another
Hmm.
3D program? Because now that we have this that you've created, this adds another feature that pushes us to that next level. Like, do you think that that's important?
Yeah, so that's actually kind of the reason as well behind why I did it, because I wanted to stop using Octane in Cinema 4D. I just didn't like the workflow, and I preferred what I was seeing in Blender. Um, and what was keeping me from going to Blender for a long time was the lack of features it had. But then like I just had to bite the bullet and then just kind of deal with it. Um, so and this kind of plays in like I do want to like end up making some courses of like if you're coming from Cinema 4D, how do you migrate to Blender with like without having to like use the weird default controls, because like coming from any other like industry standard software, it's always like alt mouse click to navigate and stuff, and middle mouse to do things instead of like holding down G to move something. It's like right click select was very foreign to me and a lot of other artists. And so that kind of ties in of like I'm trying to help give people a reason to like, or like just like no more excuses. Like it has all the same tools, same results, same stuff. Now you don't have to pay monthly subscriptions or annual subscriptions. You don't have to pay a lot of money, and that was a big problem for me. It's like I was continuing to pay for the Octane subscription. I'm like, I'm not making money right now, and it's just burning a hole in my pocket. So I had to make the jump to Blender. And now that I got this working, it's like I don't need to ever go back. And I always try and convince my clients too to like I show them like what Blender can do and what I can like do with it. I'm like, if we can do it, like I can do it. Just trust me. And they're like, oh, we just want to play it safe. I'm like, okay. And they come back later and like, all right, let's use Blender.
Yep, and that's, I think a lot of artists today have been in that exact same scenario where a client might want you to use a specific program because they've seen things that have been created, and there are great things that are created with other programs, but Blender's getting to that point where there's so many community add-ons, there's so many materials and textures and things that you can get for Blender. Sometimes you look at something that's rendered and you say, wait, that was made with Blender, and now this shader is one of those awesome like pivotal moments where you can look at this and be like, this isn't Octane, this isn't Cinema 4D, this is Cycles, Render Engine, and it's all in Blender. And I think that's amazing. So I'm glad that you made this
Yeah.
because it helps push Blender to that next level of slowly becoming like the industry standard, which is I think what every program fights to be. Not that it is yet, but I know there's gonna be a lot of arguments in the chat about that, but that's the constant debate, right?
Hmm. And actually, I don't know if it's gonna what they're planning with it. I know it's in their roadmap, but the developers behind Cycles and the shaders at Blender are working on a native thin film solution. It's
Really?
just like doing it natively in a render and not using just shader hacks, because this is still simulated. It's physically accurate to a point, and that's where they're trying to still make it like physically accurate. Period. So like this will still like if we crank up the width, you'll see it kind of cycle back through to the beginning. It just does so in a way that it hides it pretty good. But that's like there's very few reasons why you need to go that far, so it's not too detrimental. But um, that's just kind of a side effect of that. But it's like they are trying to build that in. It's just tricky, and even it took Redshift like a little over a year to figure it out.
Right.
So they're working on it, and I think they want to try and implement it before Blender 4.0. At least in the next major update of Cycles, they're going to be doing that.
That's awesome. Yeah, it's always exciting to see new features getting rolled out. But this is cool. At least this will be, like you said, the solution to everyone who is trying to migrate over from Cinema 4D Octane. This is just incredible. So
Hmm.
wow. I mean I love it. Do you have more use cases that you want to show us or anything else you want to talk about with the shader?
Um,
I know we've
I mean,
said a
if like
lot.
if I know if anyone wants to see like a specific example, like I've got a few. Most of them have been just kind of like the water caustics and stuff. But like, if anyone's got any questions or something specific they want to see if it can do it, they can just ask in the chat and see if we can whip it up real quick.
Yeah, absolutely. I
But
can't, for some reason, I can't see the chat on YouTube, which is really frustrating because I don't know. I literally am logged in. But also, before we even get into any more like real-time demos, would you be able to talk about the like where people can find it and like, sorry, what did I put in the agenda here? Oh yeah, like I think you said maybe it might be there's like a deal going on. Is that correct?
hmm so for anyone who hasn't bought it yet, if you check the description, if you use the code Kenny15, you just click on that link and then apply Kenny15 to your checkout page in the discount section. You'll be able to save 15% off if you haven't bought it yet. And it's only on until 11 p.m. tomorrow. So
Amazing.
you've got about 2 days to get it if you want to get it.
Cool. I'll throw out a post about that too, so people are aware of that because people love a good deal, and
Hmm.
you guys could see through this demonstration everything that you're getting with this shader. It's honestly like multiple shaders in one if you really take a look
Yeah,
at it.
I know. And originally, when I built the dispersion one, I was like, "This is going to be a thing on its own." I was like, "Seems pretty clunky and weird to just like have this on its own." And then I was like, "What if we just build it all in one?" And I was like, "Wait, we can add more stuff to it." And now we're here.
Now, here's a quick question for people who do buy it today or whenever.
Mhm.
Will they get updates on the shader as you release them? Like, will they be
Yep.
grandfathered in? Okay,
Yes. Until I'm still trying to figure out how I want to do it, but um, pretty much anyone who buys it now before the next major update comes out, they're going to be grandfathered into the future updates and stuff. Once that next update comes out, people who buy it after that, um, it'll be split up into like a different bundle. So there's going to be like those modular features I was talking about. That'll be split up into a thing. But anyone who buys it, or anyone who's bought it before that update comes out, will get it for free.
that's amazing, and that's really generous of you. I'm sure people are like really excited about that. And then I think we went through almost the whole agenda. Is there? Oh, here we go. Are there any? I don't see any comments right now, but are there any projects that you'll be working on soon, like that you're really excited about, or any new shaders that you're developing that you're
Um,
allowed to talk about?
right now, I'm still just trying to work on. I want to get a promotional video done,
Nice.
and this was actually I had to get this project file from Martin, so I could do that for the promotional video because like this is the best use case of the thin film that I've been able to come up with, or been able to. Right, it's better than what I've been able to come up with, um, and so right now I'm just kind of focusing on getting that done, and then just like I'm gonna let my brain clear for a bit because I've been going full steam for 3 months on this.
Yep.
um, so just waiting to get back, but the Aurora shaders is something I want to work on. It's gonna be like procedural like Northern Lights, and I'm thinking of having multiple solutions for that. So for like different use cases for different scenarios, it'll just kind of work with however you need. So um, there's the way I used it for a project was having them be volumetric. So it's just volumetric, like northern lights going through a big volume. It was really cool. Um, but there's also other ways, like if you want to render it in real time, like really super fast, um, you could do, I'm going to have like stacked image planes. It's going to be basically be the same effect, but it's just going to be uh, just planes. And that'll be able to render in real time because you can still render the volumetric one in Eevee, but there's some performance side effects to that. So this will basically just be able to make it as versatile as it can be for any use case.
I love that. Yeah, Eevee's got to be like the Eevee can mess with us a little bit when we try to do our projects, but it's fun. I'm just always a cycles guy. I always have been. But that's awesome. I'm excited to see that Auras project. That sounds really promising. I think
Yeah.
everyone's really excited about the shader, and I was thinking since we were recording all this on YouTube, once the recording's processed by YouTube, I'll download it and give you access, and we could probably cut this up into a few different reels for more demonstrations
Hmm.
too. Um, let's see. I can't see the comments on YouTube if there are any, but if anybody has any questions, I mean, we can probably wrap this thing up. I mean, we did all the comparisons, we did a bunch of
Hmm.
real-time demos. Honestly, a good way I could think to end it, unless anybody has questions, is maybe you can just show a couple of the completed renders. And other than that, like if you want, and then
Hmm.
we can open the floor for questions. But I'm not seeing any because my computer doesn't want to show me. We got 6 people watching, so if you guys have any questions on YouTube, let us know.
Here, I'll see if I can get some. I did compile this one. Let me see if I can. I compiled all of the Blade Runner caustic demos into one, because that's what I was initially trying to go for, but I was like, let's just it's going to take a long time. I kind of just need to spread it out and milk it as much as I can.
Of course.
Um, so let me see if I can get that.
I'm going to create a cup like dispersion example today probably, or maybe tomorrow. And try to.
Oh, where did it? There we go.
Oh my, look at this.
There we go. I'm gonna turn it down because I believe it's copyrighted music, so
Got it.
don't want to get the whole stream flagged. Hopefully that's playing smoothly.
It's a little choppy, but it still looks gorgeous. Even choppy looks gorgeous. Wow.
So these are all kind of just scenes inspired by Blade Runner. If you guys have seen it, you'll you'll notice where the scenes take place. But
Dude,
this is just all three of those shots.
this is incredible. Is this you made this recently?
Hmm.
Wow.
Yeah, and each one like didn't really take more than a day to make and render.
Wow. Absolutely gorgeous.
Yeah, it is a little choppy. I see it on the stream, but yeah, I'll share that on social media and stuff. Let me get back to where did Blender go?
These demonstrations have been awesome too. I'm really enjoying them. And it's cool because everything's completely customizable. It's an
Mhm.
affordable price point, especially for what you're getting. Considering that if you wanted something even close to this, you would have to probably use a different program, or you'd have to make the shader from scratch yourself, which most people have no idea how to do. So you're getting a lot with this shader. This is
Yeah,
it's fantastic.
it's basically the same price as 1 month of the other render engines.
They're like similar to like would you say like Octane would be around that
Yeah,
price point? Yeah.
yeah. Octane and Redshift, they cost about the same ish, but they're about that same price. But you got to pay it monthly.
Gotcha. Wow. Well,
So this is one time, and it's yours.
that's amazing. And there'll be, of course, future updates and newer versions,
Hmm.
as well as, not to mention, the shaders you're already working on behind the scenes, which is we're all very excited about. Yeah,
Yeah,
this has been awesome. And I think my favorite part about this is that you can achieve an amazing render with a low sample count. And a lot of people are always itching
yeah,
to save time, and they can clearly do it with this shader. So this is really awesome for the community. I'm pretty sure. And I know you had some posts on Reddit, right? Like when you were first starting out.
yeah,
That's right. And I think it probably blew up on there, was what I would guess.
yeah. Some of them did. And there's like it, the community is kind of interesting where it's like there's people who are like very anti like selling anything Blender related,
Right.
and they're like, I'm never gonna buy this shader, like you're capitalist, like you're part of the problem, blah blah blah.
Yep.
It's like it's open source, and then like you go to Don, sorry, what's his name, guy who made Blender,
Oh, I forget his name. He's like Dutch.
Tom, Tom, I can't remember. But he his pinned tweet is like, you can use Blender for any purpose, even commercial, for
Yep.
any reason.
Yep.
So it's like, yeah, so totally open and free to make products. And this is just like you said, this is to save time. for people who don't want to do it or can't do it, don't have the time to do it.
Yeah, and not to mention, you should never feel bad about selling something. You invested a lot of time into
No,
this, and you deserve every penny you're getting for it because this is time invested, research done, experimenting. Like, not to mention, it solves a clear problem. So yeah, absolutely, you should sell it.
yeah,
Never be ashamed for that. I've also been what do you call it, corporate shamed or whatever you want to call it for selling something in the past. So I'm very much used to that.
yeah,
It's okay.
yeah. Yeah, people are gonna do that. You
It
just
looks like
gotta.
we might have a comment in my Instagram. Someone said, "Could you please explain more about the new version? Which future is this? Oh, which feature is this? Oh, well, this we're right now we're looking at a shader that my friend Smouse CG made over here, and it is currently on sale for the next day. It's available. Well, there's a YouTube description on this live. You can check out the link there, and you can also check out the link in my bio if you're interested. But don't worry, the whole recording will be posted on YouTube, regardless. Cool.
Yeah, very good.
I don't think any other questions came up. A lot of people have been hopping in and out of the live, but the demonstrations have been absolutely amazing. I'm really happy we were able to like record this. I think we covered pretty much everything, unless there's any last remarks you have. Yeah, I think we
I don't
covered
really think
everything.
so. Other than like, stay tuned for more demos, more updates. I want to try and get them done as quickly as I can. Um, and yeah, like if you haven't picked it up yet and you've been wanting to, if this helped answer some of your questions, you can get it on sale right now, 15% off. It's only on Gumroad though. I haven't got the sale going for Blender Market because their whole their free tier thing is very limiting, but um, there's no functionality difference between there.
Gotcha. Will you eventually? Do you think you'll be releasing to Blender Market, or are you going to stay exclusive on Gumroad for now?
It is on Blender Market. The sale is just not on Blender Market
Got
because
it. Yep.
for the free accounts, they don't let you do discount codes.
Yep. Totally understand. Yeah, every
So,
platform's got their different like regulations and guidelines.
mhm.
Yeah, no, this is awesome. This has been really awesome. I'm really happy we got to do this. And again, all this will be posted, all the links. If you guys have any questions, you can also comment them down below. I think Instagram looks like they enjoyed it. YouTube, I think they enjoyed it. We had a total of
Mhm.
176 viewers, so that was pretty
Oh wow.
successful. Hopefully some people got to check out the shader. And yeah, thank you so much for coming on and talking about this and taking the time out of your day to tell us all about your
Yeah.
shader.
Yeah. Thanks for having me. This was super fun.
Absolutely.
Be fun to do it more in the future.
Yeah, absolutely. And I was gonna also say before we go, if anybody does download the shader, please share with us. Well, share with Smouse and me, whoever you want to, what you're doing with it, because we would love to see
Mhm.
and we're curious about it. I'm definitely gonna be messing around with it over the next couple of days, and I'll post a render and I'll tag Smouse in there and make sure you guys can check that out as well.
Yeah, absolutely. It's my favorite thing to see. Like whenever someone tags me and I get to see what they made with it, it's like makes it all worth it.
Yeah, it's a very special moment indeed. So
Hmm.
hopefully the community can be aware of this, and I'll definitely be posting more about it. And don't forget, guys, 15% off using the code. Is it Kenny 15, right?
Yes.
Yep, and that's only going until tomorrow night. So make sure you
Yep.
guys get that code in there while you can and take advantage of that sale. So. All right, guys. I think that's it. Thank you again for your time. We'll be in contact. I'll definitely reach out to you about more collaborations in the future. And thank you so
Yeah.
much.
Yeah. No problem. Thanks for having me on.
No problem, man. All right. Take care.
All right. All right. You too.
All right. Bye bye.
Bye, everyone.